Good morning, everyone. This is Commissioner Bell. Today is Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026, and we'll call this meeting to order at 8 a.m. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your phones. You can do this by pressing star 6. Please unmute yourself when called to speak, again pressing star 6. It's very important for all others to remain muted. Thank you. Well, Commissioner Scar cannot join us this morning, so I'll say good morning to Commissioner Fournier.
Good morning.
And we'll jump right in with Advent Telfilmuk.
Hey, good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
We have 10 patients in the hospital today, plus one brand new baby. Surgery did 11 cases yesterday. Ambulance crews did 12 911 transports, 1 transfer, and no transports home yesterday. I want to welcome a new physician to our community, Dr. Greg Brown, who is an orthopedic surgeon. Dr. Brown is going to be a partner. He was kind of recruited by Dr. LaFleur to be his partner, and we'll be working here on a part-time basis and covering Dr. LaFleur when Dr. LaFleur is out of town. And he was looking for a faith-based organization to work for, and we fit the bill for him, and we're glad to have him here. He actually has a PhD in biomechanical engineering from MIT, and he's a graduate of Harvard Medical School, is an orthopedic surgeon, board-certified orthopedic surgeon, and has done a fellowship in sports medicine. So with his experience and expertise, we'll be able to offer some additional types of orthopedic services that we haven't done in the past. So we're excited to have Dr. Brown as part of our medical staff. And unless you have questions for me, I will go back on mute.
Thank you, Eric, and congratulations and welcome to Dr. Brown. I've already heard people talking about him in the community and that they're excited that he does shoulder repairs and things that they might have had to go to Portland for before, and so he is a very welcome addition to our orthopedic program.
Yep, I'm very excited about having him here.
All right, thank you so much. Well, let's move on to the Coastal Caucus. Do we have Rep. Javity with us this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We are in our final week of the short session for 2026. We expect we'll be done. We have to be done by Sunday, but we think we'll be done by Friday, maybe Saturday. And that the final things we'll have to do is approve the budget. That was one of the big question marks coming into the session was with our deficit. Potential deficit, what services we're going to need to be cut. We're starting to get some clarity now around what those cuts will be, and it feels pretty safe to say we're going to have some very minimal cuts. We had stratified things into 1%. What if we had to cut 1% of the budget, 2.5% of the budget, and 5% of the budget? So those 3 tiers, and we're looking at only things in the very smallest bucket, the tier 1. I don't have exactly what those things are going to be in that category, but it won't be things like the OIA, and it won't be significant cuts to women's health services or to children's services, etc. But there will be little cuts across the agencies that might look like longer wait times for customer service, whether you're calling for questions about disability insurance or employment insurance, or maybe even waiting in line at the DMV. Those types of things, as we have to cut, as the state has to cut some staff, or at least not hire staff to improve wait times and things of that nature. So hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have exactly what that looks like. I know Ways and Means is working hard on that, and that's the committee that approves everything that's has to have a dollar bill spent to fund it. And today's Tuesday. I would imagine by Wednesday, Thursday, we know exactly what those are. So we're just kind of a little bit at this call is a little bit ahead of when we'll have those decisions done. So that's what's happening with the budget. On other bills this week, we've had Yesterday we had a long debate about Senate Bill 1599. That is the bill the legislature introduced to set a date for a vote on the ballot referral that was completed in December regarding the transportation tax. That's the 6-cent gas tax. That is the 0.1% increase to part of the payroll tax, the transportation tax in the on the payroll, and some of the DMV fees. That was initially set for November, but the legislature wanted to have that moved up to May to get some clarity around when what to do next to not leave the budget in limbo. There have been members of the Oregon Department of Transportation as well as city and county employees in different parts of the state whose budgets start in July. And so since July, they haven't had any clarity about what the budget will be and how we'll fund it, and what will eventually happen with things like the gas tax and transportation tax. And we said, let's move that date up to to May. It's largely expected that voters will vote to repeal those 3 taxes, which means that we have come up with an alternative way to provide some short-term funding. It means pulling out of buckets for major road repairs, as well as delaying some of the safe school routes that we were putting together, the state was putting together for kids to get to and from school on bikes. It doesn't look like we're going to cut into public transportation very much in that respect, but there are a few other buckets that we pulled some money out of to help try to backfill that. It also means we're not hiring about 700 positions, I believe. One of the other big problems within that space is that road crews throughout the state, city and county levels, have became increasingly frustrated with the process of not knowing whether they'd have a job and have left their jobs. So over the course of the last 6 to 9 months, we've seen a flight away from those types of jobs, leaving us shorthanded and short-staffed in the maintenance crews throughout the state, as well as within the agency itself. So that would be engineers and experts that know how to build roads, design roads, improve bridges, etc. So we've lost kind of a bunch of brain trust, lots of HR, and that's mainly how we've come up with the savings. So rather than having to lay off people, as the governor predicted would be necessary in July, people just left their jobs because they didn't think they'd have a job. And that offset how much we'd have to pull out of some of the other categories like major road repairs and federal funds, et cetera. And so we're going to put that Band-Aid on the problem, but it's not the end of the story, because we're going to have to come back and figure out how we're going to solve or fund the transportation network in Oregon for the long term, beyond just this next 2 years. And so those conversations will start happening as soon as session's over, for a more long-term plan for something for us to discuss next year in the long session. A couple other things that were decided in the last couple of weeks. We did pass House Bill 4145. This is the bill that addresses the problems with implementing Measure 114. And if you remember, Measure 114 was passed in 2022 by the voters on a ballot. That is the short version of it. The voters decided by a very small margin, I think it was about 1% or less, that people should have to have a permit to purchase guns in the state of Oregon. It also put some limitations on how big a magazine you could have for a gun going forward, or purchasing that. There were a lot of problems with that. It was going to make, number one, it was going to be really hard to implement background checks, to get the permits, among other things. Law enforcement partners said this is not doable. Another issue was that people owned guns and had large capacity magazines already, and did that make them criminals at the passage of this law? And the legislature recognized that those were all issues that needed to be fixed. And immediately that law was challenged in court, and it's kind of flip-flopped back and forth on whether or not it's constitutional. It ended up in the Oregon Supreme Court, where it is now, and they heard the arguments in November. We're waiting for a decision from them. So two things could really happen. One, the Supreme Court could say that Measure 114 on its face is just is unconstitutional, and that is the end of Measure 114. That things would go back to the way they were in 2022, and there would be no permit required. There would be no limitations on large capacity magazines, etc. And this bill that we passed, House Bill 4145, that's in the Senate right now, so it hasn't actually made its way all the way through, but it will this week. That bill would become basically ineffectual. The other thing that could happen is the Supreme Court could uphold Measure 114. If that happens, if there is no if there is no House Bill 4145, nobody could own a gun in Oregon. And the reason why would be, or nobody could buy a gun in Oregon. You could own one if you have one, but you couldn't buy one because Measure 114 is not implementable without House Bill 4145. So the legislature had to make a decision on whether to pass this bill, which would allow people to purchase guns and et cetera in Oregon or not. And Oregon felt like, well, we have to do what the voters wanted, which was Measure 114. We have to make it work. And so House Bill 4145 makes the process work so that people can purchase guns, et cetera, if the Supreme Court finds that Measure 114 was constitutional. It is. So we're waiting for that decision from the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, we'll have a law in place ready to go to make the whole thing work the way it was intended, the way that the voters wanted. There's been a lot of controversy around this bill from gun advocates, and so it's been spicy, I'd say, in the Capitol around this one. We passed Senate Bill 1507, back on that 4145. Like I said, I think it should pass its way through the Senate by the end of the week. That would be something to watch, and it would go to the governor's office by Friday this week. We also passed 1507, Senate Bill 1507. This is the bill that will disconnect Oregon from the federal tax code, which means Oregon will have complete control over what deductions it offers and doesn't offer its citizens. That Oregonians would still get all the same tax breaks and deductions that they get through on their federal taxes, but for the state, there were a few changes. So of note, people who earn overtime or tip income would still be able to deduct those in the state of Oregon. That was part of the bill. Also, we're increasing the earned income tax credit by 25%, I believe. So it's a big increase for people who need that boost every year. That will affect hundreds of thousands of Oregonians. So that was a huge win for our working class. We're also going to implement a jobs credit, which will help employers with hiring. It'll actually offset their taxes directly. I believe it's $1,000 per employee that are hired under certain conditions and then retained for at least a year. But the big, and there were two other big changes, and one of them was bonus depreciation. Under the federal law and the state law currently, before this bill passed, farmers could, for example, and big businesses or any business really could deduct their purchase of equipment, the depreciation on that equipment very fast in the same year, which was it's a big win for businesses. However, that change in the federal tax law, in the state law, was costing the state hundreds of millions of dollars. As we looked through all the possible ways to backfill what the cuts were going to be, the decision was made, among other things, to eliminate the accelerated bonus depreciation just at the state level and keep some of the other business deductions. And so there was a lot of debate on the floor about the impact that would have on different communities. And this is a temporary cut until things change economically and with the federal tax code. It's important to note, too, that businesses can still deduct depreciation. They just can't do it all in the same year. And they can still take advantage of Section 179, which I know is now getting a little tax wonky, but businesses would understand that that's another way to deduct a lot of expenses on equipment very quickly in 1 year. So But by doing that, we were able to provide some savings for the state, but also increase some help coming to people who have really seen prices skyrocket, especially among our working class in communities on the coast, et cetera, where prices of everything have gone up, especially food and clothing and other supplies, rent, utilities. This will put more money in their pockets so they can meet those expenses and create some padding and cushion so that they don't have to make choices between what to eat and which bills to pay. So all in all, I think a good compromise, although definitely not without some costs included in that. And I think I could go on some more of the issues that we are wrestling with. I will just touch bases on the transient lodging tax. There were two proposals. There's one for the state to increase the state transient lodging tax by 1.25%, with a lot of that increase going to wildlife and anti-poaching and wildfire and wolf depredation types of problems. That passed both out of the House. It's in the Senate. I believe it's up for a vote today or tomorrow. If that passes, the tax that people pay when they stay at a hotel or an Airbnb or a campground would go up by 1%. And then the other bill is the local transient lodging tax. I know we talked a lot about that on this call. That passed out of the House last Wednesday, or last Tuesday, I think, and by a big margin, 40 votes in favor of, 12 against. We had about 8 people not at the Capitol that day, so we didn't get to the full 60, but enough. Well, we only needed 31, which is great. It went to the Senate, where it was in committee yesterday, and it was a wild day for that bill in the Senate committee. There were moments where it was questionable as to how we were going to get it across the finish line, but it made it out of committee last night at 5. It's going to the Senate floor. It should be there for a vote this Wednesday or Thursday. I would say we still have some work to do. We need 16 votes, and I think we're close. I think we have enough as is, but anything can happen in a few days. If that passes, that will give cities and counties the flexibility to adjust their the portion that's spent on tourism promotion and the portion that is spent on services providing for things that tourists and residents of our communities need, like law enforcement, roads, electricity, or not utilities, but wastewater, and any other priorities that we need to make sure we've got a place that's working and operable for people who live here and people who visit here. There's been some controversy about whether changing that allocation will impact tourism in a negative way. As I've looked at this issue and researched it with colleagues, there are states all over the country that have local transient lodging taxes. Most of them allow full local control and are doing just fine, and it's actually doing much better than Oregon's doing in respect to how tourism's doing. I think we can trust our cities and our counties to make sure that money is spent in a way that meets the needs of everybody who comes to enjoy or live in our communities. So that will be set up for a vote this week. One of the contentious parts of the bill ended up being a small addition to the restricted funds called resiliency grants. And this was added this session in response to some of the feedback we were getting from small restaurant owners and small hotel owners, which was sometimes there are moments during the year, sometimes during the peak season, sometimes during the shoulder season, where business really slumps. It could be because of a flood like we had in December, where people don't come to the community because it's just not accessible. Sometimes if you're in Central Oregon, it's a wildfire. It could be the crabbing fleet or the fishing fleet can't get out because of toxins in the water. There's a lot of things that can have short-term impacts on our tourism industry, and there's not a great way to provide some resources to those businesses to help them to weather shoulder seasons or economic downturns. And this would allow cities and counties to create a grant to help our tourism impacted businesses. And so that, I think, is a big win, as we've heard from restaurant owners and hoteliers, that, hey, we would really appreciate some help with some of these dollars to help us support the businesses that actually are support the tourism economy when there's economic downturns or other types of natural disasters that impact us. And so that's in the bill currently as is. If it passes off the Senate floor on this week, then it will be up to cities, counties, DMOs, and chambers to decide how to best implement all of those new provisions and how to split up the revenues. This is not a tax increase, which is what the state one is. This just gives us more flexibility. Anyway, that's my update for now. I know there's more I could jump into, and happy to answer any questions before I go, but I'll try to have another update next week with some of the other things I couldn't cover today.
Thank you so much. It's really it's so helpful to all of us to have the update from the session. I'm really grateful. I wonder, Commissioner Fournier was there at the Capitol yesterday to testify about TLT in the Senate. I wonder if he has any questions or comments, if he wants to talk about that for a minute.
No, I was gonna just speak to the TLT, but Rep. Javdi did a very thorough job of that, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, Rep. Javdi, thank you as always for your work. Thanks for explaining the complicated things. I was interested in following the transportation issue and which ballot it will be on, and it wasn't fully clear to me why folks were upset about it going on the ballot in May, and so it was interesting to hear you talk about that and all the other things. So thank you very much for your work, and thanks for your communication to people about it via your newsletter and Substack, et cetera. You're just doing a great job. I hear people in the community talking about, wow, did you read Rep. Javdi's newsletter? So I heard that on Sunday. So well done.
Well, thank you very much. I'll keep doing it and keep trying to relay information I think is useful, and appreciate all that you are doing. And I hope you have a great week, and I'll keep you guys updated.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, well, we'll move on to Tillamook County Community Health Center. Camille Sorensen is not available today, so she sent in what she'd like to share, and I'll read it to you. National Dental Assistance Week is March 1st through 7th this year. Dental assistants bring skill, efficiency, and compassion to patient care every day. We want to take this time to recognize Cassandra McRae and Perla Mendez for their dedication and hard work at Tillamook County Community Health Center's dental clinic. We appreciate the way they brighten smiles all year round. Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month is March, and in the United States, colorectal cancer is the third most common cancer in men and women combined, yet it's one of the most preventable types of cancer. There are over 158,000 estimated new cases of colorectal cancer this year, of which 55,000 or more will die from it, so fully a third. If you're 45 or older, there's no better time to start regular colon health screening, because even if you don't have a family history or any symptoms, screening is cancer prevention. We encourage you to schedule your colon health screening today. And just a personal note, I talked about this a couple months ago, I think, that I had a regular colonoscopy, and they discovered some polyps that were precancerous and concerning, but not cancer yet. So they took them out and told me to come back in 3 years. And I had no symptoms whatsoever from polyps. So if I weren't getting regular screenings, I never would have known, and it could have easily turned into cancer, apparently, because they're fast growing, the kind I had. So it's a silent killer, and it advances too far before people know if you're not getting the screening. So please, everybody, just get your colorectal screening, whether you talk to your doctor about it, whether you do a colonoscopy, or now there are some other alternative ways to do it. And so please just check that out, because that's a lot of people who die from colon cancer who wouldn't have to. And additionally, Camille's last message was grant organizational updates. Following up on a question stemming from our community report last week, we're sharing that Oregon Health Authority collects and tests samples of wastewater 1 to 2 times weekly from community wastewater treatment centers around the state. Samples are tested year-round for SARS-CoV-2 or SARS-CoV-2, influenza, measles, and during the respiratory season, October 1st through April 30, RSV. Wastewater monitoring can be used to detect trends in community spread as well as SARS-CoV-2 variants and influenza subtypes at the community level. So that's interesting. I asked Camille about that last week, about what they're testing for in wastewater and how they know which diseases are prevalent in which communities. So that's interesting information. All right, so now I'd like to move on to Nehalem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy and Gail Nelson. Give Gail a moment to unmute. Oh, perhaps we don't have Gail this morning. Well, Gail, if you're here, jump in later. Let's move on now to Tillamook Family Counseling Center and Amanda Bunker.
Hello, hi everyone. Today I was just going to report that we, in partnership with Northwest Parenting, are offering an active parenting course. And the really cool thing about this course is that it's via Zoom, because obviously parents would have to get daycare options or have, kids at a babysitter or whatnot. So this takes all of that out of the equation and you can just do it via Zoom. So it is a free course. There are 3 sessions. The first one is tomorrow from 6 to 8, and then March 11th and March 18th. Any participants receive an active parenting handbook and an active parenting workbook. And so if you or anyone you know would like to register for that course, again, it starts tomorrow evening. Just send an email to melissacs@tfcc.org. So that's my update this morning.
Thank you very much, Amanda. I appreciate that. I took that active parenting course. It wasn't through TFCC, but I took it when my son was 10 or something, and it was very helpful. It was very helpful to just learn some skills and tips for for how to be a better parent. And it didn't. So I like to say when we're talking about this sort of thing that it doesn't have to be in a troubled family. It doesn't have to be
right.
in a family where some problem has presented itself. It could just be parents who want to get more skills, want more tools in the toolbox. It's really useful.
Yeah, and just on a side note, some of the things that they do discuss are just improved communication. And one of the big ones is strategies for student success. So I don't know how many of you have had a kid at your dining room table crying over homework, but I have. And so just like you're talking about, just increasing skills and being able to talk to other parents about what works for them and, raising kids as best we can. So contact us if you yourself or anybody would like to attend this Zoom active parenting program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll circle back and see if Gail Nelson from Nehalem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy is with us. And if not, let's go on to the Sheriff's Office. It's the first Tuesday of the month. We have the Sheriff.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioner. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, good morning.
I apologize if I'm a little hoarse or hard to hear. I've been sick all weekend. Sounds like I got whatever bug's been floating around. So I'm back at work and powering through it. So I'll give my report. February is a short month. Plus it's winter time, so we tend to have a lower call volume, and but the numbers are still up there in the sense of overall busyness. So just a few stats for the month of February. Our total number of calls for service was 1,597, so just shy of 1,600. So even for a slow month that's 3 days short of most months, we still had quite a number of calls for service. Just a few of what types we had. We responded to 33 disturbances, 31 motor vehicle accidents. We had 35 CAMI calls, and CAMI, as a reminder, is child neglect or child abuse type calls. You know, those numbers are very staggering and again, in my opinion, way too high. Just to kind of point out that the number of calls that I just gave you is an average of about one a day, which seems like quite a bit. Just another thing I want to touch on is the number that I gave for motor vehicle accidents that we responded to is not directly correlated to how many crashes there are in the entirety of the county. We're not going to generally respond to a crash that's in the city. A crash that's on a highway is going to be taken by Oregon State Police, and we may not respond to that. So that number for motor vehicle accidents in the entirety of the county is most likely higher, but those are the numbers that we responded to. Some of our self-initiated or proactive policing calls or type of calls that we did, we attempted 134 civil services for the month of February. We also did 133 business checks in the month of February, and we conducted 216 traffic stops. As I believe I've mentioned before, I like to see traffic stops happen, not necessarily for the purpose of citations, but it helps deter speeders or illegal passing, things of that nature, which in turn help bring the number of crashes down. And so those are important numbers, I believe, to help keep our community safe. Don't have many more in the way of stats. Just like I said, it was a short month. Just a couple other things. We're hopefully putting together a big hiring push coming up. The sheriff's office has struggled with recruitment, just like pretty much all law enforcement agencies across the nation. Currently, we are down somewhere between 8 to 10 staff members between all three divisions. I apologize, I don't have the exact number, but like I said, it's somewhere between 8 to 10 across the divisions. And so we're looking at some type of a big hiring push. We'd like to host a testing event, which is for our post-test, the written equivalency test, and the physical ORPAT test, the physical abilities test. We normally do these in the fall once a year, but we're going to try to add one in the spring. And we do that because we've had reasonable success at getting more recruits, because there's often a struggle to complete the application process, which requires scores from those tests. So if we're able to provide them, it helps with recruitment. It takes a lot of staff time to do that. So we have to be very efficient in how we do that. But hopefully we'll be doing that big push and we can see some new faces join our team sooner rather than later. The last thing I want to mention is we're going to be hosting our second annual Easter egg hunt. Last year was a smashing success. I wasn't sure what kind of turnout we would have, being that it was the first year. Our parking lot and our entire driveway was full of vehicles, and there were hundreds of kids out here. It was a blast. We are excited to host it again. We had way too few of eggs last year, so we're going to darn near triple the number of eggs that we're going to have. Once again, TLC, Fiber Federal Credit Union here in Tillamook, is sponsoring it. They have been amazing supporters of us and amazing supporters of the community, so we're excited to partner with them, as well as the Tillamook County Sheriff's Foundation, the nonprofit that supports our office as well as the community. So I'm excited to be able to announce that. We should, if you follow our Facebook page, we'll post the information for that here very soon. I'll try to get it out to local media outlets and the chamber, etc., so that way everybody knows about it. That will be April 4th. It's a Saturday in the morning. If you have kids and you want to attend, make sure you get here on time, because last year the kids made quick work of the egg. So we're excited for that. With that, I can take any questions.
Thank you, Sheriff. Commissioner Fournier, any questions for the sheriff?
I have no questions for Josh, thanks.
Okay. Sheriff, do you have the date? Did you tell us the date and I missed it for the Easter egg hunt?
I did mention it just at the end, probably quickly ran over it, but it's April 4th. It'll be 9 a.m. It's a Saturday.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. And thanks for doing that again. I recall last year that it was very well attended, like you said, and that people really loved it. and a cool way for the community and for children in particular to interact with law enforcement in a joyful way. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. If you know me at all, you know that I absolutely love interactions with kids as well, with law enforcement, really develop a good relationship from the get-go. There's nothing but positive that comes from that. So I encourage these things all the time. I was excited with how well attended it was last year, and I'm excited to see what happens this year. So.
Well, me too. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, let's move on to Tillamook County Emergency Management. Randy Thorpe.
Sure.
Do we have Randy Thorpe on the line?
You can't hear me, can you?
Oh, now we can. At first we couldn't.
Can you?
Yep, that's better.
Okay. That's I got to make sure my clicker finger works right. Anyway, the first thing I'd like to kind of talk about is that the Oregon Department of Emergency Management is going to be presenting their what they call Tsunami Roadshow again this year. They come and put on a presentation. They bring along with them their partners from the DGAMI, the Department of, DGAMI. They're the geological people, and also the National Weather Service come with them. And it was a great success last year. It was well received, and they had a lot of great information on that. And right now, they're planning on up in the Manzanita area on the 31st of March. That's a date that they picked due to scheduling issues of where they could find a place for to hold that. And then the following day, that will be in the morning on March 31st, morning hours. And then in the afternoon and early evening of the next day, April 1st, they will be holding their roadshow in Tillamook. And again, securing that location, and we'll get more information out as soon as we get those two locations centered. And what's really nice is that Laura from the DGAMI comes in. She really gives a good background and the scientific reasons behind the earthquakes and tsunamis, and really gets into some very interesting information that sometimes it's a little more than you want to know, but it's really a good opportunity to ask some questions and really find out the geology behind the earthquake with the subduction zone, and also the tsunami that comes. The National Weather Service comes, and they talk about a lot about their warning system and how they send it out. They coordinate with the National Tsunami Warning Center up in Palmer, Alaska. It's actually the National Weather Service that sends out those tsunami alerts. And so again, make sure you sign up for our alerts so you can get those alerts. So, and then the Department of Emergency Management, they just kind of talk about the preparedness end of it, the famous 2 weeks be ready, a lot about the evacuation routes and areas. And it's really a great presentation that they put on. And they also have a great, of course, question and answer period after that. So I'm hoping that we see a great turnout again this year. And as soon as we get the locations down, we will get that publicized out, and I will definitely have it by next Tuesday, but we'll get that put out. We'll get it put out on Facebook and on our county webpage. And I also heard a rumor that it's going to be daylight savings next Sunday. So I guess be prepared for that. And I guess we lose that hour of sleep. So anyway, with that, I'll turn it back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Randy. I have attended those Tsunami Roadshow presentations, and they're very useful. Even if they're educational, even if it's a review for somebody, even if you've been before, I think they're still really, really good to do. And I was thinking while you were talking about recently we had the Cape Mears Community Preparedness Group hosted and the Tillamook, the brand new Tillamook Preparedness Group hosted tsunami preparedness event at the library. And at that event, which was very well attended, bravo, Tillamook County, I met people who were hearing the information about Cascadia subduction zone earthquakes and tsunamis for the first time, and who were considering their evacuation routes for the first time, who were learning about liquefaction and how particularly wet and sandy soil can become liquid in an earthquake for the first time. So there are a lot of people in our community who don't know anything about the Cascadia subduction zone, potential for giant earthquakes offshore, potential for tsunamis, and what it will mean for us, a lot of people. And so I really encourage people to go to those tsunami roadshows and to invite your neighbors, take your kids. You know, it's something everybody in all of our generations should learn about, because maybe it'll happen in our lifetimes, but maybe not. Maybe it'll happen in our children's lifetime or our grandchildren's lifetime. So we're trying to build the culture of awareness and preparedness. So with that, well, let's move on to the Oregon Department of Transportation and Bill Jablonski. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Bell. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, I've got a couple updates and an announcement. So I want to do some updates on our current construction projects in Oregon 6. So we have 3 projects that are under contract right now. The Oregon 6 Devil's Lake Fork Wilson River Bridge. If you've been through that section there, that is a single lane closure on that structure. Crews are down below strengthening the steel of that bridge, as well as doing a coating. So a lot of the work is behind the scenes under the deck. So a lot of traveling public, you're not going to see the improvements that are going on at that location. Thanks so much for your patience as you use the signal there, the temporary signal, as we guide traffic back and forth. That has a completion date of October this year. However, contractors tend to wrap up quicker than what we give them time for. So we're looking forward to that one being done. Our Oregon 6 roadside barrier project, as you recall, that's guardrail barrier upgrades throughout the whole corridor. So from Banks to the city of Tillamook. That is ongoing. Those are various work areas that the crews move depending on what their schedule is. So please look out for those work zones as well too for that barrier replacement project. We also have a project that's been awarded. That's the Oregon 6 mile point 4.4 to 9. That's the preservation or the paving project, as we call it. We're hearing from the contractor that may start as early as mid-April. Of course, it's weather dependent. When I get more information about an actual schedule on that paving for that section of Oregon 6, I'll certainly pass it along through this channel and through our social media channels as well too. We will have an opportunity to do some of that paving at night where we have the 4-lane section. So we'll certainly take advantage of those nighttime hours where it's safe for contractors to pave, but we will have some daytime paving just because we have a 2-lane section through that area, which we need to be able to hold traffic some while we do the paving. So appreciate everyone's patience on that, and appreciate everyone's patience as we make improvements to the existing facilities that we do have. We know that Devil's Lake Fork Wilson River Bridge has to last us another couple of years, so we're happy that we're doing that strengthening on the steel structures, so freight and equipment can move freely between the valley and the coast along Oregon 6. We're also working with Chris Lady and the Tillamook County Public Works for the emergency events that happened in the 2025 December storm. Chris has a number of sites that are eligible for federal highway participation, so we're getting together with Chris to evaluate those locations and come up with a plan on how we're going to remediate and pay for those repairs. I also have an announcement that this Thursday, March 5th, we are going to have one of our 4 in-person meetings, open houses, I guess you would call it. It's really to talk about the next the draft statewide transportation improvement program, and this is for the years 27 through 30. Every couple of years we come around and we meet with the counties in person. We go over the existing projects that are under construction and in design, and also new projects that we're seeing coming on board here starting in 27. That is going to be at the Officers Mess Hall at the Port of Tillamook Bay. Again, that's Thursday, March 5th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. I myself will be there. We'll have folks from our Astoria Construction Office, as well as the Design Office, People can come and ask us questions about anything. It doesn't have to be Tillamook County. It can be other things that are related to ODOT as far as other projects go without our area. Happy to meet with folks and members of the public. So Tillamook County is this week, and then next week is Clatsop County and Columbia County. We had Washington County a couple weeks ago. With that, I'll pause and see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Bill. Will you talk to us a little bit more about the forum of the meeting on Thursday night? Will there be a formal presentation? Will there be an opportunity for the public to give comments or make requests about things they think should be on the plan, or how will it work?
Oh, yeah, great question. Thanks for bringing it up. So it's not going to be a formal presentation. We have an interactive map that we'll be projecting on the screen, and we can zoom in to specific projects. We can zoom into specific areas within the area that I support. It's all color coded. There's dots and dashes and things that relate to what project it is, whether it's a bridge rehab project or preservation job, or if it's a safety fixes like rumble strips or signage improvements, et cetera, the type of projects there. We can zoom in, we can look at the mile points, we can look at the locations for those projects. We will have an opportunity for folks to provide comments. I'll have hard copy comment cards that people can fill out. We can also, many of us are bringing our laptops from our offices, so we'll be able to fill out online. If folks are they want to do an online one as well too, we're happy to do that as well. There's also an online open house for this process as well too, for the draft STIP. It is open till the 20th of March. We can have links for that as well too. I can send a link to the administrative folks here at the county. You can have that on your website or however you wish to share that out. But there is an opportunity to do online participation of this open house as well too through March 20th.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other
welcome.
questions for Bill? Well, thanks for all the work you're doing, and especially in listening to Rep. Javidy's comments about trying to figure out how to fund this work in the future. It's just particularly poignant to me to hear you talk about all the important work that you're doing here that actually enables us to get to the valley and for business to occur. It's vital for citizens, it's vital for medical appointments, and it's totally vital for businesses. So it's super important work, and we got to figure out how to fund it.
Great. Well, thanks so much. And these are commitments we made a number of years ago. It does take time to do the design and get to construction. So the 4 projects that I described on Oregon 6, that's $30 million of investment in Tillamook County on Oregon 6. It's not the big fixes that people are looking for, but there are those safety fixes that we still have to maintain as well too. So good for Tillamook County and getting a big bunch of money to help with that transportation, with safety between the coast and the valley.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the Board of Commissioners and Commissioner Fournier.
Well, good morning again. I just want to thank Bill for coming on as he does. And I just want to mention too, I have the pleasure of being on the Northwest Area Commission on Transportation, the new act and Bill is there, and it's hosted by ODOT. And that's just people who may not know that because there's so many acronyms and so many things. That's that brings together leaders from Clatsop, Tillamook, Columbia, and Western Rural Washington counties. And at the last meeting, I had a conflict. I wasn't able to attend. But the good news I wanted to share, and Bill didn't mention this, but is that group has unanimously decided that Highway 6 should be the focus. And I think what's probably going to happen is that last fix that Bill and Mike Buffington oversaw on the Washington County side, that last dip that they just replaced all that sawdust and put rock and drainage pipe in. I believe now the discussion is for the other significant dip, which is also in Washington County, be the focus. They did such a good job repairing that I think there's hopes that the hope for getting $150 million to do the road is decades off. So what we have to do, and I really appreciate Bill and Mark's work on this, is we got to do the best we can to repair it to keep that road open and safe. So I appreciate their work on that. I just wanted to mention that I appreciate our neighbors on that commission that have, and Betsy Johnson happens to be one of the community members on on that board or commission. So I just want to mention that it's there is the work on 6 is still happening. The fight is still happening behind the scenes, and I appreciate our local ODOT district personnel that are doing all the work they do. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. I was going to talk about TLT. Rep. Javadi did that. So the only thing I want to mention is I know that this is really Central County specific, but there's a lot of concern where Oregon Parks and Recreation Oregon State Parks has announced that they are going to be charging day use fees at a lot more of their properties, one of them being the Oceanside parking lot at the Wayside. So obviously local citizens are very concerned about this. Currently the idea is that they would have a QR code out there, and everybody knows right now cell service is horrible. The QR code would be used to buy the day use pass. Otherwise you'd have to pre-buy one somewhere else. Also, the people are rightfully concerned that folks will just park on the street to avoid paying the day use. So I do have a meeting, and then the commissioners will be discussing probably this at a board briefing, just to figure out what maybe some options are with this, because it does affect not just community of Oceanside, but all visitors to that area. And the county has an investment in that parking lot where we have given TLT money to repair the upper parking lot. And we have the county right away, the roads to going in and out of that parking lot are owned by the county. The ramp that goes down to the beach with the staircase and the handrail and all the accessibility to the beach is actually on county property. And we've invested over $250,000 in the last few years. So we have a vested interest in having a discussion about the proposed change. I think the difference for me is the big thing, besides for the county investment, is it's a unique piece of property for the state where the way that it interacts with county property out there in Oceanside. Whereas, a day use fee at Cape Lookout or Nehalem Bay State Park, it's isolated. You drive in and you are on their property, in their parking lot, in their park. And in this case, you're on a county road, even as you pull into a parking spot. So there's definitely some room for discussion there. I'm hoping that we can work out some sort of solution for that, for the neighborhood out there, and to make sure that obviously state parks needs revenue. We get it. We understand it. We do as well. So hopefully that'll be a nice discussion this week, and I'll probably report back when it's appropriate to do so. But that's all I got today.
Thank you. That's an interesting subject, and you're absolutely right, of course, about the cell service, that if they were going to have a way to charge for day use, it can't be dependent on cell phones. That's for sure. Right. So that is interesting. And I was recalling back to the COVID years. There was a period of time where state parks couldn't afford to operate that facility at all, and so there were porta potties in there, and county parks took over some level of responsibility for that for a while, even if it was just paying for the porta potties or something. And so it's been an ongoing issue for Oregon Parks and Rec how to pay for their facilities that have been free. And so it's a good conversation to engage in, and I'm really glad that you are doing it. So thanks. We'll look forward to your update.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, and we've had a great partnership with them. So I'm looking forward. Jason Elkins, the Cape Lookout manager, is fantastic to work with. He's very, very much involved with the Oceanside community on these trail projects like Short Beach and Simmons Point there by the treatment center. So we have a great partnership, and I think it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of having a conversation to figure this out and to continue that really good partnership with them. So thanks.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. And thanks for being at the Capitol yesterday to give testimony for the TLT bill as it moved in the Senate. And as I understand it, you got to give testimony, and then they stopped testimony because it was momentarily derailed, but it sounds like it got out of committee last night. Is that,
yeah.
Do you want to say anything about that?
Well, I'll just add to what Rep. Javadi said. This bill, there was an addition to the bill that included the resilient grants, the business resilient grants, which was pretty much put in there to help it get out of the house. There were a few members apparently that were concerned about that. I did watch they had a workshop at 5 o'clock last night, which Javadi mentioned, kind of where they had a workshop, discussed it, and they did vote it out of the committee. So it is going to be on the floor in the Senate to be voted on. It did not pass unanimously. Actually, Lincoln County, the representative or the senator from Lincoln County voted against it, which was shocking, I think, to their commissioners. But it looks like there is a path forward, hopefully, for this session. It was one of those things where the resilient grant was specifically going to help members of the Oregon Restaurant Lodging Association, yet they claimed they were neutral, but then came out against it during testimony. So it was a very strange morning where all of a sudden things were kind of turned on their head. But luckily it did pass. It did leave the committee. It's on the floor. Hopefully it'll pass the Senate, and then we'll move forward with it. So I'll keep you informed on that as well.
Yeah, thank you for that update. That sounds like a bunch of political maneuvering. That stuff is very frustrating. Because you're absolutely right that business resilience grants serve businesses, and they're a great idea. And why the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association would be against them when they would help their membership is outrageous.
It's outrageous. Political theater.
Yeah.
All right,
okay, well, never a dull moment. All right. Well, what I'd like to share is something new. Since Tuesday of last week, I learned about a new federal opportunity for Tillamook County called Opportunity Zones. We saw a presentation in the Economic Development Council meeting on Thursday about opportunity zones. And opportunity zones are an economic development program, federal program for low-income neighborhoods across the country, and they choose the low-income neighborhoods based on the last census. So the opportunity zones change every 10 years with census data. So the last one that none of us participated in because it was designated in 2017, so maybe it was chosen in 2015 or 16. Was this little chunk of land in Nadana that didn't have any commercial potential, or it really wasn't usable as an opportunity zone. So it was a strange designation that hasn't been used. So this time, the proposed opportunity zones there's one that could be very usable. It's a wide swath of southern Tillamook County. And it includes Beaver, it goes from the coast, it includes Pacific City, it goes from the coast considerably east. And that's very exciting to me because the communities in southern Tillamook County are not cities and they are economically depressed. And if you've driven through them recently, there are places that are just a mess. And there isn't other than our countywide property taxes, there isn't a tax base or a government organization there to move that forward other than the county. So to have the opportunity for economic development, for investment in that area is very exciting. So we're working quickly the process is complicated, but each zone that's possible won't be chosen. So we have to apply for a zone. And in order to apply for a zone, we have to have a business that we can highlight and say, if we had investment in this area, this business could do X. And so what we do have in Beaver currently is a developer, Kevin Schluka, and his wife, Katie, have purchased the former Beaver School, which was an elementary school at one point, a middle school when my son went there. The Beaver School, they've purchased it. It's been vacant as a school for at least 15 years. And it has 4 acres of property. And the Schlukas want to develop housing there, mixed-use housing, and develop the school itself into a community center that would be kind of like the North County Recreation District in Nehalem. That's the old Nehalem Elementary School, and it's become a community center and a hub that's really vital to the community of Nehalem. So that there's the potential for that in Beaver is very exciting. And this, if the opportunity zone moves through, then there could be investment dollars that are available. And the whole program, I just started learning about it on Thursday, so I'm not going to do a great job of details, but the program is an opportunity for people to invest and get tax credits, and the intention is economic development and jobs creation. And what qualifies are commercial businesses and certain kinds of housing development. So we have Terry Cooper, who's the EDC director, and I have a meeting later this afternoon with Kevin Schluka to talk about his project and applying for this opportunity zone. And so fingers crossed, and I'll keep you updated. It's a long process, and it's a competitive application. So we may apply and not get it, but this time, this is the second round of opportunity zones. And this time, the first round, a lot of them went to urban areas. So this time they've committed more to rural. So I'm hopeful anyway. So it's a message of hope. All right, I will stop there. Let's move on to the city of Manzanita.
Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is, yes, the star 6 delay, inevitable. Good morning, everybody. I've just got a few dates I'd like to share and remind people in the community about. We've got another, I always love our council meetings, so I want to say I'm looking forward to our city council meeting, which will be tomorrow night, 6 p.m. in our city hall. And another thing I want to call out a little bit in advance, we've got the last in our series of community summit meetings that all connect with the months-long now work to update Manzanita's comprehensive plan. We've been working on this for a while. I've spoken about it in several of these calls over the last month. The last community input session of this type, anyway, will be held on March 17th, so good old St. Patrick's Day, and it starts at 5:30 and ends at 7. It's in our city hall. We've got 3 land use planning goals that we're focusing on that night. One is goal number 8, which revolves around recreational needs, which is a very popular topic here on the coast. And I know we have a lot of community input to continue to gather on that topic. Goal number 9, economic development, which I am very much looking forward to, as I'm really hoping for strong representation from business owners, retail, hospitality, and otherwise in our area. And then the last one, urbanization, which sounds kind of funny for Manzanita maybe, or a small town on the coast, but that's really will be more of an explanation of the urban growth boundaries and how they work and the effect on the city and our land planning for the future. So economic development, recreational needs, and urbanization, and that'll be on the 17th of March. We are expecting a capacity turnout for that, and so we've set up an RSVP on the city's website. If you are interested in attending, and you do not have to be a resident of Manzanita to attend, we welcome input from our neighboring communities and visitors. You can go to the website, click on that to RSVP, so we make sure we've got a good count for the event. And that's it for me. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate your report. Do we have Mayor Chick on from the city of Nehalem? I really enjoyed his update last week and was hoping to hear how the Special Olympics event went at Lake Lytle. Well, maybe we can catch up with him another day. Do we have anyone on from the city of Wheeler? How about Mayor McNeely in Rockaway Beach?
Good morning, Tillamook County. Glad to be here this morning. I can give I would have loved Mayor Chick to give the update. He was at the center of organizing the Special Olympics polar plunge event. It was held at Lake Lytle Park. It was well attended. The organization got over $10,000 in donations, so it was seen as a big success. and a dozen or more people actually plunged. We had Mayor Stock, Mayor Welch, Mayor Donahue, and myself were all in attendance. And Rockaway Beach was represented by Councilor Mary McGinnis, who actually did plunge for the cause. So really great. Oh, and I want to shout out to our fire department who were in attendance to, in case there was some kind of emergency that would take place with people going into the cold water. But good news is nothing happened, and but it was great to have the fire department there. So super event. I let Mayor Chick know that Rockaway Beach would be happy to host the event at Lake Lytle next year, should that be something they want to do. With that, just mention that the notice of intent to award the Nadana Water Main Improvements Project was issued to the low bidder, Lida Construction. Our City Council will have the opportunity to consider approving the award at our March regular meeting. Comments to our draft forest stewardship plan for the lower half of the Jetty Creek watershed were received from DEQ and have been incorporated into the plan. The Forest Stewardship Plan Advisory Committee public meeting to review the updated draft and make recommendations for council consideration is scheduled for March 17th at 3 p.m. in the second floor conference room at City Hall. The city entered a new contract with GSI Water Solutions. They, in fact, helped us with our drinking water source protection plan. They're now going to assist us with a grant to implement parts of our source water protection plan. They're a great organization. We're excited to be partnering with them, and we're looking to potentially get up to $70,000 with no match required to implement some of the items in the implementation section, including enhanced monitoring efforts and enhanced community outreach efforts about source water protection and water conservation. Continuing to talk about water, we had hoped to receive a response from Nuveen on our offer for the lower half of the Jetty Creek watershed by now, but we were informed that we will likely not receive a response until mid-March. In the meantime, we are continuing to push the project forward where we are able, working with DEQ to improve the terms of the loan, which specifically aligns the language for our land acquisition instead of a construction loan. We're completing a title analysis with North Coast Land Conservancy and revising the budget with OWEB to maximize the award. Additionally, Public Works Director Mertz has begun drafting an application to submit to the National Park Service Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program for the creation of a recreation plan for the property. The main and perhaps most impactful decision at February's regular council session was the adoption of Ordinance 2026-03, which will require a minimum of 30 rental days per year for short-term rental renewals in Rockaway Beach. This new use it or lose it rule addresses one of the key data points identified last year, which showed that a substantial number of SDRs in Rockaway Beach had little or no rental history. With a cap now established, this created an unsustainable situation of unused licenses and a growing waiting list. The new rule is an important next step in managing the short-term rental business in Rockaway Beach by removing unused licenses and allowing others to create tourist housing and transient lodging tax for the city and its residents. The new 30-day minimum rental requirement will affect renewals for the July 2027 licensing period. And then my monthly update with a look back at February is now available on our city website. With that, back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor, for that excellent report. And thanks for the report out on the Special Olympics Polar Plunge. And thanks for hosting it. It was, it's a wonderful thing. And I'm impressed that Mayor McGinnis did, rather, Councilwoman McGinnis did the plunge also. That's wonderful.
We're proud of her.
Yeah, absolutely. So much. All right. Thank you. Let's move on to the city of Garibaldi. Do we have anybody on from Garibaldi? How about Bay City?
Good morning. This is Mayor Welch from Bay City.
Good morning.
So it's been fairly quiet in Bay City last week, but the Public Works staff continues to inspect our sewer system, the mains, and then identifying leaks either that we have in our main system with FM manholes or looking and seeing possible leaks at private sewer laterals. So the City Council and Public Works, we've been working together to develop a sewer lateral program, and we will continue that discussion at our next Monday and Tuesday council workshop and council meeting. So this could have a big impact on our sewer system and residents. So I just want to invite people to come and involve yourself in this discussion. And with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Let's move on to the City of Tillamook and Sean Lewis.
Good morning. I will be very, very quick as I have another appointment to get to. But just want to give a tease to March 21st. We will be having a ribbon cutting for the Coatesville Park. That's on 9th Street. And we've got some big events. There will be some food, there will be some games, and maybe a special appearance by representatives from the Portland Trailblazers. So Moda Health, that has been sponsoring the park, is putting this together for us, and we will look to have a great turnout about 11 o'clock on the 21st. But we'll have more details as that gets closer. But I'll leave it at that, as we're way over time this morning.
Thank you very much, Sean. And thanks to everyone for participating. Thanks to everyone for listening. And thanks, as always, to KTIL for broadcasting. This meeting is adjourned at 9:11 a.m. Have a great day.